Welcome to Pop-O-Holics, show about hot takes, hotter than hot, tasty pancakes. I'm your host, Christian Katie, for our weekly upload, the full edition, special F9 full edition. We'll get to more of that later, but we are doing the weekly upload for June 28th, 2021. I know dates. And I'm joined, as always, by my two best friends in this particular
Chris
order
Conkling.
of friendship. Brian, go
and
first.
Brian Dupree.
And
Chris Conkling. I already said my name, but sure.
And maybe I'm saving the best for last. We have a special guest for this and our main topic episode, which will be on YouTube, branching out. The legend of YouTube himself, the host of the Careful for Spoilers basically every show on that network, right? The Villains and Anime Lately. He is a man that needs no introduction, yet I will introduce him, Mr. James Barnes.
What's up, guys? So happy to be here for the full weekly upload and to talk about F9. I cannot wait.
I know, we can see your face now. Usually when you're on the show, we don't get to see your face, or at least we get to see your face. The viewers and listeners don't get to see your face. So
we really have been robbing all the
that.
listeners of the joy of seeing your face. So what are we talking about on our weekly upload? Well, we're going to have some news. Brian's going to bring us some news, some F9 opening news, some Paramount details, some new trailers for some upcoming flicks. He's going to list off some of the upcoming movies that are being released this week, as well as TV. And then we're going to jump into what we've been consuming with our quick hits. James is going to talk about Peaky Blinders. That's exciting. I've heard so many good things. I'm excited to hear your take on that. Chris has been watching a new DC animated movie that I'll just sprinkle that little bit of a mystery in your face. You can read the show notes and see what it is. It's Batman: The Long Halloween Part 1. And Brian, you watched Luca. Thank God someone holding down the new releases. And I've been watching some Netflix, as well as I finished Ratchet and Clank: A Rift Apart. So I've got my final thoughts on that.
Oh, nice.
And we got some community feedback. And it's going to be a really tight show. So let's start the way we do on this show, which is with Brian's Wacky News Corner.
Welcome back, everyone. So as Christian said, we are starting with coming to the end of our Fast and Furious month. And we're talking about F9 this Wednesday. And F9 is seeming to do a pretty decent numbers this weekend. It started with about $30 million on Friday and is looking to be working towards about $68 million, which puts it well above any other first weekend release in the United States for the pandemic. So with that being said, this is definitely a good sign for people coming back to the movies as people are getting vaccinated and theaters are opening up more widely. It's made about $350 million worldwide at this point. At a $200 million price point, though, this movie probably needs to make $400 or $500 million to make its money back or be quote unquote profitable in the Hollywood sense. So I think this movie could have legs, and it is only in theaters. So I think it could make its money back, even given the circumstances right now. How do you guys feel about this? Are you hopeful about these numbers?
Yeah, it's a Fast and the Furious movie, as we've talked about here on the show before. I definitely think this movie is going to make its money back, even though we're at the tail end of a pandemic. Like, if there was ever a movie to bring people back to theaters, I think this would be that movie. Yeah, people went to go see Godzilla versus Kong, and that movie did really well. Before F9 came out, that was the highest grossing film of the pandemic, had the best opening of the pandemic. But yeah, this movie is probably going to do gangbusters. I'm most interested to see it go head to head with Black Widow on July 9th. I'm very interested to see what the opening weekend numbers are for Black Widow compared to F9. So we'll see what happens. James, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised at all. The Fast and Furious franchise has proven that it has legs. That's the other thing. It had a great opening weekend performance, and is going to continue to do so. I think this film is easily going to get upwards of 680 million to 700 million, even though we're still in like this pandemic area. I think by the end of its run, it'll be close to there. The international box office eats up Fast and the Furious, as well as over here in America. So I think it's going to do really, really well. We've already seen how much money it's made so far. So yeah, it's going to go the distance for sure.
And just to clarify, James, these movies don't have legs, they have wheels. I'm sorry. That's terrible. So yeah, that's F9 starting off strong this weekend, and you can hear our thoughts on that this Wednesday. So moving on, we had a bit of a running gag about Beast Wars on the podcast recently. And Paramount has just announced the newest Transformers movie, the seventh in the franchise, is going to be called Transformers Rise of the Beasts, which is a sequel to Bumblebee, which came out in 2018, I believe.
2018.
And so this is set to come out next summer, June 24th, 2022, and is going to introduce 3 new factions of Transformers, the Maximals, the Predacons, and the Terrorcons. In terms of the beasts themselves in the Beast Wars, I'm very unfamiliar with this, so I'm sorry for clunky terminology. But we've got Air Razor, who can take the form of a bird, Rhinox, who rhinoceros, of course, and Optimus Primal, who is a gorilla, which is completely ridiculous, but I think is pretty much on track with what this series is. James, you're looking excited about this. How do you feel about the Transformers franchise and Beast Wars being brought in?
Oh yeah, I'm beyond excited. One of my first exposures to the Transformers franchise in general was because of the Beast Wars cartoon. Like I grew up on Optimus Primal. I grew up on all of the Maximals and the Predacons and the Terracons and all that stuff. So I'm extremely excited for this, but I do want to temper my expectations because of the track record of the Transformers movies. Yes, Michael Bay isn't as involved as he usually is. I know he'll have like some type of producer credit, of course, but I think this is going to be far enough away from those movies that it could actually be successful. I think the only reason why Bumblebee didn't make more money is because it only came a year after the worst Transformers movie ever made.
People were burnt
The
out.
Last Night. Yeah, they were way burnt out. Those movies went from making $1 billion plus, and then The Last Night only made about a little over $600 million worldwide. So they saw that huge dip. And then again, like Bumblebee just came out too close and no one wanted to see anything. But this is going to be sick. I'm a little worried about the scale of the Transformers because on the cartoon, they were a little bit bigger than their animal counterparts. So I'm just trying to figure out like what scale, right? Like,
Right.
I would hope that they would try to make them like mid-sized, like where like the size that they were in the movies, in Michael Bay's movies, like half that size maybe, so that there's still some like sense of like terror when you see the Predacons and stuff like that, but who knows.
Yeah, the Maximals are the size of their animal counterparts, so they're not very big. But like James, Christian knows when we first met, I was a stupid, huge Transformers fan. I had a giant Transformers collection. Since then, it's been pared down quite a lot. But the Beast Wars franchise was also my introduction to the Transformers mythology. Waking up at 6 a.m. every morning before school to watch Beast Wars was a ritual that I had. So while I am connected to Optimus Prime and the Autobots and the Decepticons, I'm even more so connected to the Maximals and the Predacons. When this news dropped, I was excited, to say the least. And that goes against all better judgment because Bumblebee was great. I had a lot of fun with Bumblebee. It was my return to theaters for a Transformers movie because I had stopped going after the first Mark Wahlberg Transformers movie. I was like, look, I'm voting with my wallet. There's no way in hell I'm going to support these movies anymore, despite my love for the franchise. And it kind of worked out. Michael Bay left and they got Travis Knight and he made a very heartwarming Transformers movie focused on a girl and her car. And that's all I want out of this franchise. I just want, strong characters, a heartfelt message, and some good looking Transformers. That's literally all I want. So like James, I'm cautiously optimistic about this. The movie's supposed to take place in 1994 Brooklyn. So as Brian mentioned, it is kind of like a spiritual sequel to the Bumblebee movie, which took place in the 80s. We'll see. We haven't seen any designs of what the Maximals or the Predacons are going to look like yet. And I think that might be a make or break moment when they reveal that concept art. But in regards to what the redesigns looked like in Bumblebee, I mean, they were perfect. Optimus Prime looked like a real world version of his cartoon counterpart. So if they kind of stick to that and they change it just enough so it looks like they fit into the real world, I'll be happy. But we'll see what's to come for this franchise, because as James mentioned, it doesn't have a very good track record.
I'm just concerned that we're not going to get enough gratuitous shots of women's asses, you know? And I really
Jesus.
Always a concern.
Are they going to?
You know what? Maybe we'll get
Tucci?
some gratuitous shots of Optimus Primal's ass. Will that
More
be
than likely.
will that be enough for you?
We could work something
He's a
out.
primate.
He's the primate.
Yeah, there you go.
Yikes. So yeah, that's the newest Transformers movie coming out next year. That's called Transformers Rise of the Beasts. I'm sure as trailers come out, we'll be talking more about that. All right, speaking of trailers, we have a handful of new trailers that dropped this week. The first one that we're going to get into, one of the first movies we covered on this podcast, is the 2018 reboot of Halloween. And the sequel, long delayed at this point, Halloween Kills, finally dropped its first official trailer. This is directed by David Gordon Green and written by him, Danny McBride, and Scott Teems. It stars Jamie Lee Curtis and Nick Castle reprising their roles, as well as others from the first movie. I was a big fan of the 2018 Halloween. This trailer looks like they are ramping up the ridiculousness. There's a line in it where where Jamie Lee Curtis says something like, "The more he kills, the more he transcends."
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was just like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm totally in. Hell yeah, let's fucking do it.
Michael
what-
Myers is moving back into this like otherworldly
Metaphysical-
demon territory, you know?
Yes. And
I'm here
It's gonna be
for it.
awesome. Yeah. So, how do you guys feel about this? What did you think of the first movie, James? Let's start with you.
I love Halloween. Even when the franchise went a little bit over the rails, I still found like some type of entertainment from those movies, because for whatever reason, that mask creeps me the fuck out, bro. I don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
what it is, but it creeps me out. And Halloween 2018 was a great sequel to the first film. Although I love the original Halloween 2, this is a better sequel to me compared to that one. Having all of this space, dealing with the trauma that Laurie went through with her kid and her grandkid, and how it took a toll on her life. That was a great exploration. I thought that the kills were amazing. The score was really good. When he kills all of those people in like that gas station bathroom,
Mhm.
and he puts on the mask for the first time, literal chills. So when I saw the trailer for Halloween Kills, I was like, dude, he's murdering so many people the moment he gets out of the house, which I appreciate, because much like the original Halloween 2, this takes place the moment the first movie ends. Absolutely love that. And I want to see the psychological effects that it's going to take on Karen and her daughter when they have to team up yet again to try to stop the great evil. So I'm so excited for Halloween Kills. I'm very excited for how this trilogy is going to turn out, because if these next two movies are as good as the first one, I think we're in for like one of the best horror slasher quadrilogies ever.
Wow.
Very possible. Yeah, I agree with James. I think this sequel's built on a very solid foundation. That the creative team from Halloween 2018 is returning to make this one, so I'm excited. The trailer looks awesome. Like murdering all those firefighters in this burning house was fucking crazy. As loyal listeners know, I'm not the biggest fan of the horror genre. Brian is typically the one who introduces me to these horror films. But I'm excited to watch this and talk about it when it comes out. I'm excited, dude. There you go. Past Chris knows what's up.
Yeah, that's
I'm excited. I saw, we saw it together. It was one of the first like new movies that we covered on the podcast. So the series holds a special place in my heart for that reason alone. I don't love slasher films. I mean, they're trite at this point, right? And I think that my favorite last slasher film was probably Scream, because it's kind of a commentary on slash films. It's kind of my bag.
Mhm.
But these movies aren't bad. You know, we saw, I think the 2018 Halloween remake still stands much taller than its sequel counterpart, but having that team return It's exciting, and for these movies, I think they're doing it very well. So I am optimistic that it will be serviceable, if that is the kindest way that I can put my feelings for it. But they're very, very well made.
And with this writing team, there's going to be some decent comedy gags as well.
Definitely.
So always looking forward to that. So yeah, that's Halloween Kills. The first trailer is out for that now. The next one, we have a new Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings trailer. So this is directed by Destin Daniel Cretton and written by him and David Callahan and Andrew Lanham, and stars Simu Liu as Shang-Chi. The first trailer for this was very much a visual vibe kind of atmosphere trailer for me. It seemed to be vibrant neon colors, kind of showing this movie's going to look a little different than other MCU movies. This trailer gave us a little bit more of our main character and plot of what's happening. And I'm just as excited as I was for the first trailer after watching this one. I think this movie is going to be a really good new step in the MCU in terms of styles of movie. And yeah, I'm really unfamiliar with this character, so I'm just happy to go in without any preconceived notions either. What do you guys think about Shang-Chi? Do you guys have a history with this character?
After watching this trailer, Brian, I'm even more excited about this movie, but that's probably to be expected considering my relationship with the Marvel franchise. I think
Drop
you're
the knowledge
absolutely
on
right,
this, Chris, because you were telling me things this morning that I was clueless about.
So Brian and I were talking about the Abomination this morning, but I think you're absolutely right. I think stylistically, this is going to be something very different from what we've seen in the Marvel universe thus far. We've never gotten a pure martial arts movie from the MCU, and this has very much like Enter the Dragon vibes, which I'm very excited about. And we're going to have hopefully a whole Kung Fu month surrounding the release of this film. But despite all of those things, the thing at the very end of the trailer is what got me the most hyped, which was seemingly a fight between the Abomination and Wong, which is so absurd. And, I talk about this all the time, growing up as a comic book nerd and not being able to be like as open about your passion because like it wasn't as mainstream as it is now. Kids today, God, I'm going to sound like a fucking old man. Kids today, nerds today don't know how lucky they actually have it because, back in the day, it wasn't as widely accepted. But we now live in a world, and I was always like, grandma's no Thanos. That's like the marker that we've made it. The comic book nerds have made it in the world. Fuck that. We now live in a world where there's going to be a scene in a movie where the Abomination from the Hulk is going to fight Wong from Doctor Strange. And if that isn't an indicator that comic books have finally been adapted purely to the silver screen, I don't know what is. So in terms of expanding the MCU's world and lore, this new trailer got me super hyped. I'm so excited to see Simu Liu as Shang-Chi. He looks like he's going to be great. The way they've designed the 10 rings, I mentioned this when the first trailer came out. They've changed the design, so now they're like these iron armbands. I think is so smart, and it differentiates them from the Infinity Stones that we just spent the last 10 years seeking in those films. So honestly, everything about this movie, I couldn't be more excited, dude. James,
I'm excited,
what are your
dude.
thoughts?
I am so excited for Shang-Chi. When we did a list of our most anticipated movies coming out of the MCU in this year, Shang-Chi was either like number 1 or 2 for me. I am so excited for the MCU to expand in a completely different way than we've seen before. We started off with Tony Stark. We saw the Hulk. Right? We got to see Asgard. We got to explore the galaxy with the Guardians, but now we're grounded back on Earth. And like Chris said earlier, we're going to see actual like martial arts in this film. We're going to see this different take on the 10 rings, because in the comics, the 10 rings are from space. The Mandarin gets them off of a ship, and they all have different abilities. But I love these like wrist gauntlets and how they're used and how I see them in the trailer. When I saw the first trailer, I instantly thought of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, the cinematography, how they were fighting. So these are all these amazing things that I'm really looking forward to in this film. Simu Liu, he looks like he's going to do an incredible job, and I can't wait to go on his journey and just see like what was it like for you growing up with the Mandarin as your dad, knowing that that was your job to take over that mantle when you became a man and you decided to go to America, change your name, change your life, and try to leave that in the past. And then we all know the past always creeps back to come and find you, right? So I can't wait to see his journey. Just from these trailers, I'm already so invested. Like you already brought up, Chris, I love just the fact that we are going to get Wong versus Abomination in this like UFC cage, right? Like it's absolutely insane what's happening in this film. And then Shang-Chi is under the water. We see this big white dragon that's called the Great Protector. I'm not saying that this is confirmed, but what I would like is for this dragon to be Fing Fang Foom, and for them to change Fing Fang Foom's like origin of like being a villain to being like a spirit guardian for these people in Shang-Chi and their order. So that's what I'm hoping. That seems like something Kevin Feige and the MCU and the writers would do. So that's what I'm hoping, man. Like I am so excited for Shang-Chi.
I didn't watch this trailer because I don't watch trailers, but I saw the first one, and I'm equally as excited for different reasons. I guess I'm excited that, I guess along the same path, that it is a martial arts movie, so it's territory that they could expand in and be very different in. So I think it's always cool when they change things up. So although I didn't see this trailer, now I know there's a cage match with Wong and the Abomination. No wonder you're called careful for spoilers. My goodness. Sometimes I question having you on the show. Got to be more careful around you.
You were warned.
I was. Every time. Every time.
So yeah, that's the new trailer for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings that's out now. Last trailer, we've got another trailer for James Gunn's latest movie, The Suicide Squad. So this is written and directed by James Gunn and stars Margot Robbie, Idris Elba, John Cena, Joel Kinnaman, Sylvester Stallone, Viola Davis, Jai Courtney, and Peter Capaldi. We've talked a good deal about this movie already, from casting through to the first teaser and trailer. And every one of these trailers makes me more excited to see this movie. As we introduce more characters and don't just get to see them, but see them interacting with each other, I am just so ready for the ridiculous quipping and awesome jokes that are sure to come from James Gunn's first MCU movie. So what do you guys think about The Suicide Squad?
DCU movie.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
To
His
correct
first
you on
DC.
a nerdy point. It's pretty
No,
funny.
appreciate it. He did the Guardians of the Galaxy movies for the MCU. And this is his first DC movie.
So I saw this trailer, and you may be asking yourself, Christian, you just told us you don't watch trailers. Well, as we'll talk about on our main topic episode, we saw F9 in theaters together, and you have to watch the trailers unless you want to leave. And I'm not, honestly, for something that's a little bit more tentpole, I might have left theater, but Suicide Squad, I'm like honestly curious, right? I want to see this like remake. I'll if it's in front of me, I'll take a sip. I'll take a bite of this apple. And I have to say, maybe I'm alone here. And to preface this, I have complete faith that this movie is going to be better than the original Suicide Squad, right? Clearly DCU doesn't even, like, the DCU doesn't even want to acknowledge that was part of even this canon, because it's not even called like 2. Like, it's straight kind of reboot in the same world. It's very strange. I have to say, like, it's not a great trailer. I have nothing but complete faith in these creators, especially James Gunn being at the helm and proving that he can take characters we don't care about and making us really invested in them. So I love Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. So I think it's going to add up to be something great. But I want to say, and Snyder is notorious for this, that the original Suicide trailer is better. It's a better trailer that sells me that movie. I do think this movie is going to be better. But did you guys watch this going like, I mean, I'm excited for all this stuff, and it's cool seeing these characters, like these different characters and the ones we love return. Anybody else get a vibe that like that this trailer we watched isn't like the best trailer ever invented? I don't know. It didn't psych me up.
I mean, I have a bias mostly for comic book stuff, so I enjoyed the trailer. I don't think it's a terrible trailer at all. but I'm also excited that we're getting another crack at the Suicide Squad. So I think that above all else makes me forgive a lot. It's like, let's just forget that abomination of a film that existed before, and really cherish
No, Abomination was in the last trailer, Chris.
Right, the Shang-Chi trailer, right.
Sorry to keep doing all these nerdy corrections. I'm the token
I know you're such a nerd.
Fanboy.
It's so annoying.
It used to be harder for us, us
Right,
nerds.
I know. I can totally relate. But I'm just excited to see James Gunn take a crack at this, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The casting alone, it's perfect, and it's just a whole eclectic, wacky cast of people, and Starro, which is fucking crazy.
I don't know if this is fair, but every time like Pete Davidson's, I'm like, I don't want Pete Davidson in my super
So,
movie.
look, we've talked about this, especially last year during DC Fandom. And that panel, Brian and I kind of broke down what some of the panels were talking about. And in that panel, James Gunn was flat out said, like, not all these characters will survive very long in the movie. So I assume that there's going to be a huge swath of these characters that are just killed right off the bat.
Right.
I really hope Pete Davidson is one of the characters that makes it a little bit longer.
I didn't see him in a lot of the shots, so
I don't think that will be the case. I don't think that'll be the case. I figure he'll probably be one of the first people to die in the movie, but I think that would be absolutely hilarious.
I'll make a prediction. I think he dies seconds after what we saw in the trailer, because
it's very possible. Maybe like Weasel might like eat him alive or something.
I was
don't know.
Thinking the same thing. Yes, I'd be fine with it.
That would
James,
be the
how'd you
best
feel about the trailer?
implementation of Pete Davidson is they put him in just to give him like the quickest death, and
right. I can see that happening.
I don't hate. To be fair, King of Staten Island, it's a good movie. I don't want to show too much hate for that. I just don't know.
I could see
stoner
Pete
ass
Davidson
in my comic book movies. Sorry.
I think Pete Davidson or Nathan Fillion will probably be on the chopping block first. They're probably, because Nathan Fillion tends to have cameos in James Gunn movies. He's never like a major player. You know, he was in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie as a voice. He wasn't even on screen with his own face. But I that would be my guess, is that even though I want Pete Davidson to make it further into the film, probably Pete Davidson or Nathan Fillion will probably be the first to meet their demise. James, how do you feel about the trailer?
Yeah, I agree. I think those two are going to bite the dust pretty quickly, but I enjoyed the trailer. I like all of the trailers, if I'm being honest. I actually think that they're funny. It doesn't feel like the jokes are forced. And like, are we sure? Like, is it like a full, like straight up like reboot? Like, because I thought it was like a soft sequel. I know that's not necessarily a term, but it's like it's technically going to be like a sequel of the first movie, but they're not really going to talk about much of those things. Is my guess.
It seems like Rick Flag and Harley Quinn have like a prior rapport between the two of them.
And Boomerang, yeah.
Right. So maybe, like you said, it's like a soft reboot or soft sequel. We'll see.
We'll call it a flaccid return.
But I love the characters that they brought in. Peter Capaldi is going to be the Thinker. We got Polka Dot Man in here. Idris is going to be Bloodsport. So, I mean, I'm really, really excited. Sylvester Stallone is going to be the voice of King Shark. I'm a huge King Shark fan. Like, it's going to be really fun. It's going to be really bloody. Starro's the villain. Like, what? Like, this is so deep cuts and so crazy. And the fact that Bloodsport is in prison because he shot Superman with a kryptonite bullet, because I'm such a comic book nerd, like I was just freaking out the moment that I heard that. This kryptonite bullet and you got me. So, I mean, I'm excited for it. I know James Gunn is going to kill it. Like, he knows how to take a ragtag team and turn it into something really entertaining, except Guardians 2. But that's a whole different podcast. But I'm excited for it.
Why do you have to shoot? Why do you have to put down Guardians 2 right at the end of your thing?
I think Guardians 2 is one of the most boring MCU movies. I think it's
James. You know, I 180'd on that movie so hard, and like
he did.
Like one of my favorite.
I did too. I went from hating it to just thinking that it was boring.
That's not a 180. That's
so
a
hurtful.
20. That's like a 20 to 30 degree change of opinion there.
So yeah, let us know what you guys think of the Suicide Squad's latest trailer.
And Guardians Volume 2. Just throw that in there too.
Sure, why not? Check out our episodes from way back where we covered all of the MCU movies.
And make sure you fight. Make sure it's angry and not good-spirited.
That's what gets
Right, because that's what we're
going.
trying to do, ensure that the Pop-O-Holics community is
Angry.
the meanest spirited community on
We're
the
just trying to
internet.
maximize the amount of comments that we don't actually care what they're saying. We're just trying to get more comments because then the robot's like, hey, maybe I should feed this to a 7-year-old.
So yeah, that's, do not feed the Suicide Squad to your 7-year-olds. For the record, Pop-O-Holics would not
But
recommend
you
that.
can serve them up a hot, tasty pod of the Pop-O-Holics. Don't do that.
Sometimes it's marked explicit, so you decide.
This hasn't been explicit enough. Brian, swear some more.
I'm not going to do it. It's going to be forced now. But that's it for news proper this week. I'm going to move into a bunch of movies that are coming out this week.
Fuck,
So-
that's cool. Anyway, continue. Just make sure we get that tag in there.
Yeah, extra explicit this week. So the first movie is coming to Netflix this Wednesday, and it's called America: The Motion Picture. So this is a animated science fiction parody comedy film loosely based on the founding fathers of the United States and the American Revolution. It's directed by Matt Thompson in his feature directorial debut, and it's written by Dave Callahan, who has, I am not super familiar with him, but he's been involved in the screenplay for Mortal Kombat, Wonder Woman 1984, Zombieland Double Tap, and Shang-Chi as well. So pretty established in Hollywood. And this this movie looks ridiculous, guys. It's a retelling of George Washington's story. It's voiced by Channing Tatum. And if you watch the trailer for this, you know exactly what you're getting into. If you want this type of complete piss take on the founding fathers' story that is going to poke and jab at all of the silly ways that we view history over here, this one's probably going to be up your alley. And it's on Netflix this Wednesday. That's America: The Motion Picture. The next one that's coming out Thursday
Let's hope them righties don't try to cancel it. Am I right?
Yeah, everyone's going to try and cancel something. They'll do what they do. Leave it in the comments.
Yeah.
Bring it
Down
back
in
to the comments.
Down in the comments. If you're a conservative, fuck you. And if you're liberal, fuck you too, bro. Talk about this movie. Dude, we're going to have 1 million views by the end of the day. Don't worry. I got
Christian takes no sides,
I
but
take
his
all of our
own.
viewers.
no sides, baby. That's right. I'm Green Party? I don't know. I don't know what the party is that no one cares about.
So yeah, that's America: The Motion Picture.
No, Brian, we're
coming
talking
to
politics.
Netflix.
Let's do it. We're switching this into a politics conversation. I want you to talk about the next thing that's streaming, but through a real sharp political lens. Go.
I'm not going to do that, guys. I'm sorry. I do appreciate it, but that's the Paul-O-Holics. That's a different podcast. Weak attempts. I'm sorry.
I'm putting it on the list.
Okay, good. Yeah. When you're tired of no, I'm not going to do it. So
Throwback.
HBO Max has a new
Deep
movie.
cut inside jokes is what people love when
Hey,
listening to podcasts.
This is for.
I
this is
guess
for
you're going to
the-
have to
the
listen to
OGs.
200 more episodes to get that reference, won't you? Algorithms.
It's probably on our Halloween episode, to be fair. So just hop back to that one. We've got No Sudden Move coming to HBO Max this Thursday. So this is the new movie directed by Steven Soderbergh and written by Ed Solomon. It stars Don Cheadle, Benicio del Toro, David Harbour, John Hamm, Amy Seimetz, Brendan Fraser, and a bunch more. Star-studded cast. The premise of this movie is set in 1955 Detroit. No Sudden Move centers on a group of small-time criminals who are hired to steal what they think is a simple document. When their plan goes horribly wrong, their search for who hired them and for what ultimate purpose weaves them through all echelons of the race-torn, rapidly changing city. I don't know how you guys feel about Steven Soderbergh. I feel like the man doesn't really make bad movies. Even if he has some movies that aren't my favorites of his, I've never really been disappointed by his stuff. He's notorious for being one of the best editors in Hollywood who can come in and just cut a movie down to its base tightness and what it needs. So because of that, his movies are generally an easy watch. With this huge cast on HBO Max, I'll definitely be checking this one out. So that's No Sudden Move. That'll be out Thursday. Coming out this Friday, we've got the final film in the Purge series called The Forever Purge. So this is a direct sequel to 2016's The Purge election year. James is giving me, you're not a fan of these movies. Okay.
Not at all.
James, can I introduce a friend I like to call Joy into your life?
I'm going to go ahead and say all of the Purge movies have good elements in them. I think they're all worth watching. The last one is the most egregious and maybe problematic, I think, in terms of racial politics and stuff. Not going to get into it right now.
What was the last? It was the Freedom one, right?
The Purge election year.
Yeah.
Was the last one.
Very American cladded one. Yeah.
Yeah. So this movie is.
So you're getting
directed...
into politics, aren't you? Yeah, I'm.
Hey, it came. We got there. This is directed by Everardo Goat and written and co-produced by James DeMonico. It stars Ana de la Reguera, Tenoch Huerta, Josh Lucas, Cassidy Freeman, Levin Rambin, Alejandro Etta, and Will Patton. And yeah, this is the last movie in the Purge franchise. For those of you who don't know, the concept behind this movie is there's one day out of the year in the United States where all crime is legal. And in the previous movie, well, I don't actually want to give it away. So this takes place where the previous movie ends, and that's all I'll say about it. But I think these movies are on some level worth seeing. So I'll be watching this one, The Forever Purge, that'll be out in theaters this Friday.
I haven't seen that the election one. But I have seen most of them, and they are all very watchable. You remember the very humble origins? There's the
Ethan
first
Hawke
one.
stars
Ethan
in that
Hawke
movie.
is in the original one.
Totally different from where the series goes. Yeah, it's a single house thriller, right?
Yeah.
It's completely different.
And I like the first one, and then I saw the second one. I was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm good.
All right. Yeah, number two.
This is a different thing now.
And that's fair because it really is. All right, the last movie that's coming out this week, coming to Prime Video. This is a movie that got caught up in release lingo and has been ready to go forever and just hasn't come out. But The Tomorrow War. So this is directed by Chris McKay. In his first live action directorial release, he was involved in Robot Chicken and the Lego Batman movie previously. It stars Chris Pratt, Yvonne Strahovski, J.K. Simmons, Betty Gilpin, Sam Richardson, Edwin Hodge, and many others, and focuses on future humanity's war against an alien invasion. This movie could potentially be kind of generic. I'm not entirely sure. The trailer looks okay. It's not something that I'm going to be rushing out to see because of how heavily it was delayed for multiple reasons. May not be the highest sign for the quality of this one. But it is coming to Prime Video on Friday, so that's The Tomorrow War.
They couldn't get the license to Battlefield Earth or whatever. It just feels like one of those.
The Scientologists have that locked down.
Oh wow! Okay. Now we're getting religious.
That's
I
a
love
Hubbard
it.
book. That's a Hubbard book. Anyway. Notoriously bad movie.
Oh, it is a Hubbard book.
Battlefield Earth.
Oh my God, you're one step above me.
I'm sorry. This is. Anyway.
I wonder if you were thinking about Battle Los Angeles, or did you mean
that? I mean, that's what I'm confusing. All of them. I mean, that's not the same series.
No.
Oh no, they're different.
Yeah,
Anyway.
The Tomorrow War feels more like Battle Los Angeles to me.
Yeah.
Or like Skyline or some shit, but we'll see.
Skyline with the dude from Scrubs, right? Yeah, I've seen that movie.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's bad.
Who is going to be Professor Utonium on the Powerpuff TV series, but whatever.
What?
Which is now not happening, right? Just
it's happening. They're reworking the pilot and the script.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
because that show needs to be reworked into non-existence.
Yeah, reworked permanently.
I don't know who asked for this, but woof.
So yeah, the last piece of news, we got a TV show coming out this Thursday on HBO Max. I talked about it. We covered it a bit on the podcast. The Tom and Jerry movie that came out earlier this year, and Tom and Jerry in New York is coming to HBO Max. So this is much more in the line of the classic Tom and Jerry cartoons. Clearly going to be geared towards kids, but if you ever enjoyed these shows, I got to imagine this is going to be a nostalgia trip. And if you're trying to get your kids into something with slightly more upgraded animation, with the similar visual gags and just the tons of fun that is to be had with Tom and Jerry, that'll be on HBO Max this Thursday.
Slightly upgraded animation, a little more violence. Have your kids watch Tom and Jerry in New York.
Couple of sex scenes. HBO Max is really going all out with Tom and Jerry in New York. So
I mean, they are fully nude the entire cartoon.
it's risque. It's risque. Yes. But that's it for the news this week, guys.
Brian, what a great news corner. And guess what we're delivering to our YouTube watchers? My goodness. And you don't even have to smash that subscribe button. You should.
You should.
And you should be the first one to comment and say first, because you're going to add to that conversation by saying first.
And then start some type of political debate
Yeah.
based on what Christian wants in our comments section.
Call Chris a Nazi. I don't care. Whatever gets the algorithm going.
Nope, don't do that.
So let's move on. We're going to talk about my favorite section, which I'm so glad we get to bring to the news corner. What we've been consuming with our Quick Hits. Quick Hits is that wonderful special time of the show. We talk about what we've been consuming in the world of pop culture. James, you are our very, very special guest. So we're going to start with you. Peaky Blinders. Everyone I don't trust about their opinions on film and TV tells me to watch this show. But I've heard nothing but good things from people that I don't hear typically talk about movies and TV. So I'm trusting you to give me your opinions. Should it be over? Peaky Blinders was like the first Netflix show. Am I wrong? I feel like it was there the day that I got Netflix 15 years ago. Am I crazy, or has this show been going on forever?
It has been going on since 2013, but I actually didn't get into it until recently, if I'm being honest. It has been like a show that I wanted to get into. It was on my list. It was in my queue for a really, really long time. And then one day I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to put it on because I love Cillian Murphy. I think he's one of the best character actors working today. And man, he's the lead on this show and he's absolutely incredible. The Peaky Blinders are a British gang in the year 1919. He plays Thomas Shelby. Him and his brothers, they were all in war in France. They came back and they're all different men, right? They live in a very poor part outside of England, and they do what they have to do to survive as a family. They're into gambling and a bunch of other things that I don't want to get into for spoilers, but this is a guy that will do absolutely anything for his family and for his business. And it's a very, very tight group of people. And the writing is really, really good. The writing's good. The music's good. The way it's shot really, really well. Stephen Knight created this into a series and it's amazing. I remember just getting into the first 2 episodes and I was already blown away by how many different plot points were already a part of the show. Sam Neill plays a detective inspector that comes to London in order to stop the Peaky Blinders and also to find something else that was stolen. I don't want to give it away, but Sam Neill's great on the show as well. And watching him go against Cillian Murphy, man, is it amazing. Annabelle Wallis is also in this. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with her. She was in the first Annabelle movie, and she was also in that terrible Mummy movie with Tom Cruise. But she's also really, really good on the show. Everyone does an incredible job acting, so I highly, highly recommend checking out Peaky Blinders. The writing is the best part of the entire show.
How far into it are you, James?
I am just about done with the first season. It's 6 episodes per season, so I just wrapped episode 6 and I started season 2. Actually, I'm season 2, episode 2 now, which introduces Tom Hardy into the franchise, and
Awesome.
God, is he amazing just from 1 episode. So yeah, definitely check out Peaky Blinders if you haven't already.
Are you watching it with subtitles?
No. I watch a lot of BBC shows, so I'm really used to all of the different accents. Like I've watched all of Doctor Who and like the Fall and like a bunch of different like BBC shows, so like I'm used to their accents.
Don't need subs for this guy. He's like, I understand highfalutin British and lowfalutin British, which Peaky Blinders is like all Cockney, right?
Most of it, yeah.
They're not the most educated folk. All right. Yeah, that's a shot to you Cockney assholes out there. Get in the comments. Tell us why I am wrong. I don't care how you do it. Fight amongst yourself. What's the best British accent? There's like 600
And you know
of them.
what?
Such a small island.
I never thought I could hate Sam Neill until I watched the show. He is
Wow.
such a despicable piece of garbage.
You know, he
cop.
played the
Oh.
devil, or something like a mutant dimensional devil in that movie with Lawrence Fishburne, where they go through the Event Horizon. He's pretty not
I
likable.
remember that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's also not likable yet.
Pretty spooky, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Pretty spooky flick. Anyway. Speaking of someone who would do anything for their family was something you said earlier, and I'm great at transitions. You know, we're talking all Fast and Furious on our main topic episodes, which you can find by subscribing to our podcast. And on Wednesday, we're actually going to have our main thing on the YouTube channel, so you can see actual main topic episodes, special Fast and Furious edition. You've watched the Fast series. You've been watching along with us. We've watched a lot of them. We talked about them. What are some of your main takeaways, man? Did you come back and you're like, dude, it's just good to hang out with family?
Yeah, man. Like, I already loved this franchise. And after you guys did the Fast and Furious review, I was like, man, I need to go back. And then after we did Fast 5 together, I was like, well, now I have to finish. And I rewatched all 9 films. I include Hobbs and Shaw. I just rewatched all of them in preparation for F9. And man, these movies are just so much fun. Much like Mission Impossible, they found ways to elevate the franchise, keep it fresh, and keep it going. The Mission Impossible 3 is one of my favorites, but 4, 5, 6, 7, like it just keeps getting better and better every single time. And the Fast and Furious franchise, I love all of those movies. My ranking is kind of all over the place, but I had so much more fun.
So is the naming scheme of the entire franchise.
Yeah, it's
So don't
ridiculous.
worry, you fit right in.
It's ridiculous, but I had so much more fun rewatching these movies because like you see stuff that happened in like Fate of the Furious, and then you go back to the first movie and it's like, oh, this is how they figured out a back way to connect this to this and all of these different things. So I had a blast rewatching the franchise. I went into my Letterboxd, I upgraded all of my gradings for these films. I had a blast, man. And watching F9 was one of the greatest like movie experiences I had. Was just like a pure high octane film. So I can't wait for us to talk about F9 on Wednesday.
Yeah, we have lots of thoughts, and we'll be wrapping up our like overall thoughts on the Fast series in our main topic episode. So stay tuned for that. So I won't let either of you two say anything about further. But I will say, no, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Brian, you did want to make a point. Go ahead.
No, not a point. I just wanted to say that I haven't seen Hobbs and Shaw, but I did watch half of these movies for the first time, and I have gone 1 through 8 as well outside of Hobbs and Shaw for this month. And I gotta say, it was a hell of a ride, and I would highly recommend it to
Brian is dedicated to making the pod the best that it possibly can be.
Yes.
Just trying to learn from the family.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you know, it's a rockin' good time. I'd say if you haven't revisited it in a while, or you're like scared of these movies, even Chris, the biggest Fast hater, could be turned. So
It's true. I was turned by the family. Dom got to me just as he gets to all of his antagonists. I can't believe it.
And
He's
Chris,
like Goku.
And Chris, we all know that you love stepping outside your comfort zone and looking at
Right.
films and TV shows that are just outside your wheelhouse, just so you can explore, you know, the different facets of all of art. So you really went outside your comfort zone and you watched Batman: The Long Halloween Part 1 on DC. You know, and I just commend you for it. You're committed to the show and bringing our customers, you're not our customers, bringing our fans, you know, really diverse pieces of content that, you know, that you're really stretching yourself out.
Yeah, you know, I'm not the biggest Batman fan, as like longtime listeners
knows.
of the show will understand. And this is actually the first Batman thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah,
So,
last episode you said I Batman. That's stupid. What are we gonna watch? Wolf Boy? And I was
who's
like,
Batman?
yeah, a man who dresses as a bat sounds a little too theatrical for me. Your words, not mine.
I know, I'm terrible. That being said, I watched The Long Halloween Part 1, as Christian mentioned. This is DC animated. It's their newest feature film. And this is an adaptation of the beloved comic run from Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. And I was trepidatious going into this. I haven't been a huge fan of DC's new animation aesthetic with the very thick lines. It looks a little more anime than their older animation style. But I have to say, I really like this movie. You know, the trepidation also came from the fact that I love The Long Halloween. It's one of the best Batman stories ever told. It takes place in his second year of being Batman, so he's still kind of like learning the ropes. He doesn't quite understand the need to be the world's greatest detective that he eventually becomes. So this is kind of the first case in which he's like, oh, I am going to have to do some detective work if I plan on fully stopping all the crime in Gotham. But this story takes place over the course of a year, and it follows Batman trying to hunt down Holiday, who is a serial killer that only murders on, go figure, holidays. But it is an excellent story, and I think they did a great job with casting. Let me run down this cast for you guys here. So we have Supernatural star Jensen Ackles as Bruce Wayne and Batman. We have Naya Rivera as Selena Kyle, rest in peace. Josh Duhamel as Harvey Dent. Billy Burke as James Gordon. Titus Welliver is Carmine Falcone. David Dastmalchian as Julian Day Calendar Man, which isn't a huge part, but I think he's an excellent Calendar Man in the scene that he's in. Troy Baker comes back as the Joker. When it comes to Troy Baker's Joker, I think he's a really good Joker, but mostly because he's doing a Mark Hamill impression. He's one of the few people that decided not to like take the character his own route and just do a Mark Hamill. And I don't have anything against that. I think it's a very good impression. And Mark Hamill is my favorite Joker of all time. So no qualms there. But yeah, you know, this isn't DC's first attempt when it comes to adapting very famous stories. You know, a couple of years ago, we got Batman Hush, which they took and they kind of squeezed into the DC animated movie mythos that they were crafting. And that movie was very, very different than the original Hush comic to a fault. I actually did not like that adaptation, which was unfortunate because, again, I love the comic. But I think they've done such a good job here with adapting The Long Halloween. They've taken scenes and relationships like Harvey Dent and his wife. They've kind of stretched that out so we get to see a little bit more of their the turmoil that they're experiencing in their relationship at home, some of the reasons why Harvey Dent snaps. It was just a lot of fun. I highly recommend, whether you are familiar with the comic or just like crime noir, this is one of Batman's best detective stories. If you like The Dark Knight as a movie, Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, that movie was heavily based. Nolan was heavily inspired by The Long Halloween when he was writing the script for that movie. So I highly recommend The Long Halloween Part 1. I think people really enjoy it. We still have Part 2 to come down the road, so it'll be easier to say how good the adaptation was once we've seen both parts. But based on what we got in this Part 1, I'm feeling good about what's to come with Part 2. Brian, you got to watch a little bit of it, right?
Yeah, I watched about the first half, and I'm probably going to finish it after this. I did not stop because I wasn't enjoying it. I just had to get a nap in before today's episode. But yeah, I got to say, the Calendar Man scene, I did see that, and the voice actor was great. That was one of my favorite scenes of the episode, or of the movie so far. And I really liked the visual aesthetic, the backgrounds, and I don't know if they were painted or what, but the skylines they showed were just absolutely incredible, and showing off the architecture and the way it was directed, and even the way people emoted, the facial animation. It was all really, really solid, and really made me want to come back to the comic. I could tell that some of them, there were clear like visual references to panels and stuff that I'm like, I have a vague recollection of this, but yeah, I was definitely enjoying it so far.
He was enjoying it so much he needed to take a nap.
James, I know you haven't seen this movie, but are you excited to watch it?
Yeah, I'm very excited to watch it, especially after you saying that it was so good. Because I love The Dark Knight Returns, but like you, I was not a fan of Hush. I was also not a fan of The Killing Joke at all. I thought The Killing Joke adaptation was absolutely horrendous in every way possible. and it's good to hear that this story was adapted well. I can't wait to see it. Probably won't get to see it until later on in the week, but can't wait to see part one, and I'll let you guys know what I think.
Didn't like The Killing Joke. It's a good animated movie, and it's a great comic. What are you? That's like
It's a great comic. It's not a
amazing
great
comic.
movie.
It's like shot for shot, like the same thing.
Not the first
It's
act.
I don't know. You guys are crazy. Fucking nerds. Anyway, Brian, you stay. So that is, excuse me, let me wrap that up precisely. Chris, you did so much research for someone who doesn't even like Batman. I mean,
I know, it's amazing how much I knew. This is the first Batman thing I've ever seen.
And yet you knew all the reference material that was needed. You did very good research.
I work hard,
As
yeah.
Batman The Long Halloween Part 1. Is it on the DC Universe? Isn't that a thing? Is that where you can stream it?
As of right now, I don't believe it's on HBO Max yet. DC Universe is no longer a streaming platform.
That's probably got
It has been absorbed by HBO Max, but I watched it on VOD, so you can purchase it through video on demand.
Got to imagine it's coming to the Max soon.
I'm sure they're hosting most of the DC animated films right now. So if you give it some time and you're subscribed to HBO Max, I'm sure you'll be able to catch it there.
I'll see if I can wait, Chris.
I know it's going to be hard.
That's going to be real difficult.
I'm sure it'll get on there in like 3 months or so.
Yeah.
3 months, says James Barnes, as a hot scoop. Brian, there's a new Pixar movie getting the short shaft over there at Disney. You know, Disney's like, for some of our movies, you got to pay a premium. And for other movies, you're just getting it as part of the Disney Plus deal. And Luke is one of those movies. Do you feel that this is right? Or is this movie worth more than they're selling it for, which is included in your Disney Plus bundle? Do you feel like this movie kind of got short shafted?
I can't really speak to the economics of it, but I will say that I would not have regretted renting this and watching it with my family at the premium rate. I think this is pretty much everything you're looking for from a Pixar movie. So this is directed by Enrico Casarosa, written by Jesse Andrews and Mike Jones, and stars Jacob Tremblay, Jack Dylan Grazer, and Emma Berman as the three main roles. This follows our main character, Luca, who's a 13-year-old sea monster who is unfamiliar with the world above the ocean and basically ventures out to discover it because of a new friend that he meets, who's also a sea monster, who, for reasons we find out throughout the movie, is currently living largely on land. This, I don't know. It's like, it's hard to talk about these things because this movie is kind of very low stakes, but because of that, it's super tight and never feels dragged down at all. It gives you everything you're looking for in terms of emotions. You see these kids, the voice actors are all great, all actually voiced by children, and they break your heart as people do. They put it back together. It's got the good emotional beats. The animation, I will say, it's nothing groundbreaking visually. The water effects are pretty good, but coming off of Soul, where I thought there were some pretty astonishing visual stuff that I hadn't seen in terms of the Pixar animation previously, coming off of that, it wasn't super showy, but I think it works for the type of movie that's being shown here. You don't need anything extravagant. It's this small Italian town, and you're there with these characters. In terms of the design, Emma Berman plays Julia Marcovaldo, and her father is just one of the silliest looking and perfectly designed characters in any Pixar movie. He's just like, you see him and know exactly who he is to some degree, and he becomes kind of this like lovable character as well. But yeah, the movie ultimately centers around a triathlon, like a bike, swim, and eating race. And that's kind of the crux of the movie. So not super high stakes, but all of the characters are really fun to be around. And it's just a great story about friendship and learning to deal with your parents, having parents learning to let their children go. All the classic stuff that is great at pulling your heartstrings that Pixar is so solid with.
It sounds like just a relaxing summer film.
Yeah, I think that's easy to say. And maybe because of that, it's that's why they thought they should throw it on Disney Plus, because it's not groundbreaking in some ways, but I thought it was really refreshing and a more consistent movie than Soul, even though I think Soul kind of got to higher visual stuff and concepts. This movie is just very comfortable being this small story, being exactly what it is, and it's nice.
Sometimes you just want lemonade.
This is it, Luca flavored lemonade.
I love it. That is Luca, now streaming on Disney Plus. Catch it if you got that Disney Plus. I have been watching and playing some things. So, I've been a busy boy, just a little busy bee. So I haven't had as much time as I'd like to dive into a bunch of stuff with everything we're covering and all the stuff that happens with life. But I did get a chance. My lady, my fiancée, if you will, loves to watch crime stuff. Every joke that you've seen on like TikTok and stuff about, women like listening to murder stuff, that really spooks me out. The amount of murder and death documentary, and not even like a show with murder and death. No, like real life reaccounting of murders and death. Chris, you can relate, but
my wife is obsessed.
The amount of murder and death stuff just happening, whether it be on Netflix or a podcast or something, is just astounding. Now, there was one thing that caught my eye, which was this new series. Not new, it came out in 2020. Series called Trial by Media, because the premise of it is very exciting for me, because the idea behind it is that media has shaped how we view true crime, and to me, it's like why people are interested in this now. With court TV, my mom was obsessed with court TV, and it always kind of irked me the wrong way, even as a kid, and as an adult, even more so. Of like, I don't know if you should be selling advertisements for like murder trials. So this concept fascinates me, of this like observing of the justice system and the benefits of it, which I think there are. I mean, there's some transparency added when you put a camera in a courtroom and everybody's able to see it and see our justice system for what it is. But the sensational elements around that and what becomes of that public opinion court is very fascinating to me, as I think it would be for a lot of people. And that's kind of the premise of this whole series. Now, I've seen 3 or 4 episodes. I'd say 3 episodes I paid attention really good attention to. And some of the others, not so much. And I think it's okay. It starts off with a trial that's about this gentleman who murders his friend after they go on a show, and he admits that one of the friends admits he's gay. And he talks about his sexual fantasies with this friend. And the other person on the show, and it was not Joan Rivers, one of these talk shows or something. I can't remember, but it's like a Jerry Seinfeld, not Jerry Seinfeld. It's like a Jerry Springer type of situation where it's kind of like gotcha television, of like trying to put people in awkward situations. Who is it? Shit, I should have done more research. Anyway, the point is that after kind of coming out and being like embarrassed, because the one guy's like, I'm totally heterosexual, and he probably wasn't, but was in a situation where he couldn't come out as gay, and he ends up murdering his friend. So it's about, is the TV station liable for this death, this murder? And I think it's an interesting way to start, and I know why they started it that way, because it has to do with TV potentially causing violence, and then it was like a televised thing, and then became a thing in and of itself. Very fascinating, but I don't think it's executed entirely well, so I'm not sold on the show. My girlfriend's watching some more of them, and then the other night we put on episode 4 of this first season that's out, called King Richard. And to me, this, if you're only going to watch one of these, this is the one to watch. This episode has to do with a Birmingham company, and this one gentleman that becomes a millionaire off of it, and all of his CFOs, his chief financial officers, all come out and say, yeah, he was dealing in fraud. Turns out there was a lot of fraud in the company. They were misreporting their numbers, and this guy is like, he stages rock shows, he's got a yacht, he's got like 6 houses, and so the media attacks him, and he kind of backpedals and actually finds like solace and support in the Black Southern Church, and creates his own like TV spiritual show. Like, this guy who's being accused of corporate greed backpedals and finds allies in the most like this white Southern rich guy, finds comfort with that, and he hires, instead of hiring like a big corporate lawyer, he hires a black civil rights lawyer to defend him. And it's crazy. Like, it's like corporate greed guy goes to the most unlikely place that you'd think in the South, and it's just a fascinating story of where you really start rooting for people that you didn't like. You think that you're on one side, and then you're kind of on the other, and then you're like, halfway through, you're like, I don't even know anymore. And I think it's doing what the series does really well, which is playing with perception and how the media treats figures that come into the spotlight, and how that can play with your emotions and your even like your religious or political beliefs. This episode is amazing. So I recommend, out of everything that I've seen, this is the one episode you should watch. I think for about an hour-long like documentary, part of a larger docuseries that is like loosely connected, you can definitely just come in and watch this episode. But I thoroughly enjoyed it and found it just a really fascinating look at some of the stuff this show is trying to do, and I think not accomplishing on the highest level. But the subject matter is so fascinating that it is, and the characters in it, like the lawyers that defend this guy, are like if they were characters in like a Scorsese movie or characters in some kind of highfalutin fiction, some high drama, really well acted, they would be the stars of the show because they are that interesting. And so highly recommend that. Have you guys heard of the series or seen any of it?
I haven't, no.
I have not. I'm interested now, though.
Yeah, I would recommend to watchers, listeners, and you all to check out this one thing. It's only about an hour. It's good. Me and my fiance enjoyed it quite a bit. That is Trial by Media on Netflix. Specifically, I recommend the episode King Richard, which is episode 4. All right, in closing and getting near the end of this thing, I'm going to briefly touch on, last week I talked about Ratchet & Clank: A Rift Apart, the new PS5 game. For those who don't know, Ratchet & Clank is a series that's been on PlayStation. It's kind of one of PlayStation's mascots, if you will, is the Ratchet & Clank. And you follow this alien called a Lombax. He's like a cat person, and his sidekick Clank. You get guns. Really cool stuff. I finally beat it, and I'd say this is such a great game. It's such a breeze to play. The platforming's really great. The new PS5 hardware is very, very solidly shown off. This feels like a great launch game, and it's kind of, in this weird topsy-turvy year. It's weird that we're getting that 6 to 8 months after it's launched, but I know people are having a hard time getting these consoles. I have to say, like, from top to bottom, it's just a joy. It feels like a fun DreamWorks or Pixar movie. Really, really solid voice acting. I do have to give a huge shout out to James Arnold Taylor, who plays Ratchet, and the new character Rivet, who is his dimensional counterpart, played by Jennifer Hale. And Chris, you may know Jennifer Hale because she plays Femme Shep. She is the voice actor for Female Shepherd from the Mass Effect series. She does a phenomenal job as Rivet, makes her a really great, fascinating character to come to. Not having been introduced yet. So all around, it's all just goofy and fun. I think it's really approachable if you've never played any of the Ratchet & Clanks, but has some rewarding things. And basically, because it's taking place in another dimension at a lot of the times in the game, a lot of the characters you know and love, not only are they in it for a bit, but they have these dimensional counterparts that are just totally topsy-turvy. And that's like a fun thing for fans, but they're also just interesting characters in and of themselves. The gameplay is not going to blow anybody's socks away as far as like revolutionary gameplay, but what will, as I said last week, are the visuals and just the astoundingness of going through different dimensions and just how fast it feels. And it's a perfect length. I actually was right before the end. It gives you a warning. It's like, this is the last mission. And I did all the side stuff and still wanted more. It's super fun. Y'all know I'm a fan of skill trees. There's a skill tree for each gun. I love the skill trees.
Wow.
It incentivizes you to like use all the different weapons you get. Again, there's like a desire. I had it on a higher difficulty than normal because I had heard that it's a little easy, so I bumped up the difficulty. I wish that it was a little more challenging, and there was a little more like pushing you to use guns to, just really push yourself and figure out different puzzles in like combat. It's not really that kind of game, but it is fun. It makes you feel great. You feel super powerful, and overall, like the story is totally fine. And not in a demeaning way. It's a really fun ride. It's very light and breezy, and it's breathtaking. I mean, you go to worlds and you see off in the distance, and there's populated cities, and it's not like there's a whole lot of interaction or gameplay that changes from that, but it is very immersive, and it is real pretty. And I think, for what it's worth, I think if you really want to play it It's worth the the $70 price tag. If you wait for it on sale, I think you're gonna really love that experience at a better price point. But it is still a really good fun ride whenever you get to it. It is super fun and shows off the capabilities of PS5, and it gets 2 thumbs up from me. The Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, available for PS5.
Ratchet
James.
and Clank.
James, have you seen anything about this game?
I have not, but I've only heard good things. Like Vash is playing it right now. He loves it. So I've only
nice.
heard good things from anyone who's playing it. So I'm gonna have to pick it up whenever I get a PS5.
Vash, man, a good taste. All right, let's move on into our final section, which is going to be community feedback.
Welcome back to the Pop-O-Holics
Gold.
community feedback section. Loyal viewers and listeners, this is going to be a short and sweet one. This week, we did not post a poll on Twitter. However, we still want to talk a little bit about our Throwback Thursday episode that's coming out this week. This Thursday, we're going to be dropping episode 22 of Pop-O-Holics, which is titled Brand New Glory Fades. And I was away on business for these episodes, but
Smart man.
That was
Chris.
the way
Brian,
I
it wasn't planned. Maybe it was planned, maybe it wasn't. But Brian and Christian have Christian's very talented brother Bobby on the show, and they break down the discography of the band Brand New and some of the later failings of its lead singer, in the last couple of years. So it's super interesting, especially if you are into that band Brand New. I highly recommend you go over to our YouTube channel and check it out. And then, of course, subscribe to make sure you don't miss any of our future videos. But that's it for the community feedback section this week, guys. And Christian is struggling with the
Yeah,
well,
well,
I hope
focus right
everyone's
now.
able to see this. This
it's
is incredible.
gotten out of focus, and I have to switch it off, and I'm trying to make this as smooth as possible. So I don't want to do that. So in order for it to get in focus, I have to get really close to the camera. Hi, everybody.
How intimate.
Now it's blurry again.
Oh,
there we go.
I saved it.
Look at that.
That's just for our loyal watchers, not viewers. You're not viewing. You are watching. You're engaged. You're in the comments, talking politics, and we're loving it.
Our loyal engagers.
Check out those, us going through our old repertoire, man. It's really bringing back old nostalgia memories.
Seriously.
Yeah, so check out those. They're a lot of fun if you want to see the making of a podcast into what it is today. It is humbling. You can always rate us 5 stars, subscribe to us on the YouTube, subscribe on your favorite podcast player. In both the show notes and the YouTube comment section, or not the comment section, that's where all the political and religious anger is happening. No, in the show notes, the about section in YouTube. Chris, help me out. Save me. What is it called? Show about this video?
In
Video description. Video description.
There we go.
I
We
was gonna
figured
say.
it out. The video description. That's what YouTube calls it.
We've used the internet before. You're just going to plug on into ebombsworld.com. Space Jam website still up and running. spacejam.com. Check it out. Super fun. No, in there you'll find a link and it says subscribe and find us around the web. It shows you all our social media. It shows you where you can subscribe on your favorite player. So we really appreciate if you follow that and let us know what you think. You can email us popaholicscast@gmail.com. That's popaholicscast@gmail.com. We love hearing. We read every single email that is sent to us, except for from who? Johnny G. You can go fuck yourself, Johnny G.
I mean, I still read Johnny G's emails.
That's
so
true. That's true. James, where can people find more of your work on the internet?
Yeah, the easiest way is just to go to carefulforspoilers.com. You will find the most recent episodes of Villains. You'll find links to all of our social media. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it's C4 Spoilers. You can also find links to our Patreon. And we also have links to all of the podcasts on the C4 Podcast Network. So you want to find absolutely anything, head over to the website, and merch will be coming by the end of the year. So stay tuned.
Ooh, merch.
exciting.
And James will also be down in the comments telling you how much he hates the Amish. Brian, Chris, they can't use the internet, don't worry about it. Chris and Brian, where can people find more of your work on the internet?
loyal listeners and viewers, you can find me on Twitter at Chris Conkling, talking about all things nerdy, television, movies, comic books, you name it. I'm talking about it.
And you can find me at True Pop-O-Holic for all of your non sequitur jokes that no one's going to get, but I still appreciate them. So check that out.
And you can find they're down in the comments. They're talking about how much they hate pescatarians. They're like, pick a side. Do you eat meat or not? Very opinionated on the food dietary choices of others. I think a little too much. And you can find my band at Midnight Satire. We're just talking about how everybody should just get along. And love is the answer. And, if you want more of those vibes instead of all the toxic shit that happens down in our comment section, check out Midnight Satire on Apple Music or Spotify, where everybody's welcome. Gentlemen. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week's weekly upload. Stay tuned because, Chris, what are we talking about on our main topic episode?
Christian, on Wednesday, our main topic episode is going to be a discussion about F9. We're closing out our Fast month with the most recent Fast and the Furious movie.
Or
otherwise known as F9, the Fast Saga, or Fast 9. I don't know. What's the real title to this movie? Who knows? F9. Yo, that should be the title. Yep. We're just into onomatopoeia at this point with the Fast franchise. Fine.
So if you want more of that humor and deep insight into your content, join us next time on another exciting episode of